course, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So, it's been like really dry in the studio, so everything's been drying within like,
Oh.
I leave it out overnight, and then I really have to cover it up the next day,
Yeah.
next morning, and then once we get later in the year, it'll definitely take longer. Like I could leave my white clay pots out overnight in the summer, and like they'll be fine if I leave them out until
Right.
like
They'll still be
midnight,
wet.
until like 5 o'clock the next day.
Right.
But now it's like you have to cover them up in the morning.
Yeah.
So, alrighty.
Alrighty. I feel like I need to turn the earphones down.
Is there a certain position your mic is supposed to face?
Nope. I don't know.
I'm just curious
I
because
think it's supposed to face
ours is
this.
a certain setting. So,
I think it's supposed to face this way. I downloaded the app and you know what? I never looked at it after I downloaded it.
because I
Let's see
wonder
if
if the little, I mean, what's on the other side? I could see the settings on your side, but it seems like those settings would want to face you. But I can't tell what settings are on the other side of the mic. So,
yeah. I can't remember what it was called. That app that I downloaded. I should start playing chess on my computer, try to get better.
do you know how to play chess fairly? Are you like a intermediate?
I'm like a bad intermediate.
Okay. Because you were talking before you played with Val's kids, right?
Oh, no, I played checkers with Molly and she fucking kicked my ass.
Oh, checkers.
Like,
okay.
She demolished me. Like,
I feel like I'm a pretty good checkers player.
now we played chess and I beat her. So that was good.
Okay.
I felt appropriately good at that. But she's also like learning chess. Once she learns it, she's gonna.
Yeah. I think we talked about this. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
she's like a good match for chess. You're not
Yeah.
like demolishing her.
Yeah. We're very even.
Yeah, it's fairly even.
Yeah, a 12-year-old and a 31-year-old. Very even. I used to go to chess club in high school, and the only reason I went was because afterwards we got Pizza Hut pizza and played war games.
Oh. Oh man, did you used to have the reading cards where if you read certain books and you filled up a card, you got like a free Pizza Hut personal fan pizza?
Yeah, who did it?
Okay. I didn't know if that was a standard everywhere. If that,
Yeah,
man,
I
Pizza
think
Hut really
so.
had a racket with these schools.
I know, and like it went away, and it was so sad.
It's like, man, you
Like,
get excited. I was excited. I think we went with my grandma after school or something back in, when I was in grade school and stuff, because I would go over to my grandparents after school, and
yeah,
you're like excited about we're going to Pizza Hut so I can claim my personal pan
claim my
pizza.
personal pan pizza.
Oh, so good.
So good. Personal pan pizzas were also. Oh, they're
Do
the
they even
best.
still serve those? Does Pizza
No,
Hut
I
still
don't think
serve
they
personal
do.
pan pizzas?
I don't think they do. I think that that left along with the reading.
Along with the reading. What are the incentives to read now? I remember
None.
in 8th grade I think we had a certain number, like you had to get a certain point value
Yeah.
by the end of the semester or whatever. So you had to read certain books, and like certain books were worth like 3 points, but and you tested and you got a good grade, you got 3 points
Yeah.
for that book. But if you read better books, you got like 6 points. So it was like Harry Potter was like 6 points, but if you read this
Yeah.
like The Hatchet, that was like 4 points, you know?
I don't get this. Okay, there we go. I don't get this microphone, but that's okay.
The volume that's probably your earphone, right?
Yeah, it like
Your
switches
headphone
between.
volume.
It like switches between. So like, see when it's orange, That's the headphone volume, and when it's green, that's the gain. And then you can mute it there.
I like how the mute is just a tap. Mine is a button, and you can sometimes hear it when I mute myself.
Yeah.
Because you can hear the click.
But the problem is that, like, the problem is that it's, like, over it, so, like, it's kind of hard to see. Like, I'm not going to be able to mute it very easily.
That's why I think that part should face you.
I don't know.
Because what are there settings on the other side?
No, but there's words. And of all of the
I'm sure that's a quick Google search
of all
to
the
find
people
out the
that
right
I've
way.
seen, yeah, like of all the people that I've seen that are like doing podcasts, they're this way.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm pretty sure, at least. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Let me get a little bit more water just so I don't run off during.
Good. I'm gonna paint my fingernails. It's kind of nice having an ice machine downstairs.
Yeah. I turned it on earlier tonight. I finally used it for once. I normally don't have ice in my water because I don't want to hear the clang when I'm...
The clinking?
Yeah, when I'm drinking it. But normally I mute, so...
I have a funny story about this water bottle that I just got. I'll tell it to you when we're...
All right, so are we doing... Let's do... I wanted to talk about the... I want to talk about the slips versus underglazes stuff. I feel like we could talk good about that. And I think... Sure. I mean, I know you're getting way more experience in that now, especially... And maybe we can even delve into a little bit of like getting color with like stroke and coats versus that versus, you know.
Yeah, like a stroke and coat versus a slip versus a underglaze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get like bright colors, because I mean that's generally why you're using those.
Yeah.
And then do we want to do a review, or what would you do?
If we're going to do a short episode, I don't think we should do a review or a question. I think we should just go into it.
Just go into it. Okay.
Yeah. And like talk about our day and then just get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me copy this topic. Because it's not really a listener question. It's really just one that I was thinking of. Okay. All right. I think I'm ready to start. Make sure that's good. Okay.
Okay. Make sure I'm on silent. Okay, when do you want to start?
40 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Hi.
We're live.
We're live.
Hi.
Hi. Did anybody message us about was the last episode the one that we were like, is Becca's recording better than Ryan? Did anybody message us?
We did talk about that. I don't believe we got a message about it. Have you checked our messages?
No. I should.
We started getting some help on the Instagram account in the last week or so.
Lindy and
Ashley
are helping, and they're doing amazing. I was like, wow, our stories look really fucking good.
Yeah, it's fun to just pull them up and you see something new because you're like, I know I didn't post it, so it's like I wonder what they posted, you know?
Yeah, it's fun, and they're like both really good at those type of things. So That's been great to see. So now
Yeah, I don't see a comment yet. So if y'all hear a difference, we're on different microphones now. So another chance for those to give some feedback if you have any.
There was a little volume difference in the last episode that I was really trying to fix, and I felt like I never really got it. But we think we fixed it with this one, so we'll see. But yeah. How is your day? How are you doing?
It's good. Today's Sunday, so it's a little out of the ordinary to be recording on a Sunday. But my parents were in town this weekend.
Yeah.
So I had a date night Friday at Baker Hunt. Taught one of those. That was my last one of the session. So I have another one. I don't have another one until April, I think.
Oh, good.
So I get some time, which is nice. And then Saturday, hung out with the family.
Tell us about the show.
Oh, yeah. We went to, let's see, what was it called? I think it's called 20th Century.
Mid something.
It was called what is it? Okay, there we go. 20th Century show or something. I'm terrible. I don't know. Rachel shared it with me. It's just called 20th Century Sensi Show, but that's not right. So it's basically like a thrift show or like
it's a mid-century modern thrift show.
Yeah.
And it's big, right?
Yeah, it was pretty big. It was in like a convention hall. Yeah. It was in just like one huge room, and then there was like a side room. Yeah. There was probably about 100 booths, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe 80.
Yeah, like Rachel takes pictures of some chairs, but then she like takes pictures of like bags and all the things, and then you're over here, and I was like, "Come on!" And you took pictures of like a couch and a chair, and I'm like, "Thank God."
The priciest items there are furniture, and that's probably what is getting out the door, and these people are making their money on most.
Oh yeah, that's what people go there for.
Yeah. And I mean, and the prices are outrageous, but it's like, how often are you going to be able to see that exact same thing? If you like it and you have the money for it, it's kind of like you splurge on it.
That's the issue with mid-century modern, like actual mid-century modern. And I'm not talking about mid-century modern style. I'm talking about actual mid-century modern that was made in the quote unquote mid-century. It's like, so once you find an item that you love, you really just have to buy it, and it's like,
you're playing for that exclusivity.
If you never want to,
so low.
Yeah. If you never want to see it again, then don't buy it.
Like, I mean, you could always like reupholster it, but like, how good is reupholstering something where you're like, I really like this, but I wish it was this color.
Yeah.
Like, are you really going to spend that money to reupholster something and still spend $3,000 on a chair?
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a well, it's mine but not mine. It was mine. I was given the chair. We traded 8 cups for this chair, and it's $1,000 recliner mid-century chair. Actually, it was probably $3,000. It was Swedish. And
still have it?
No, because I gave it to a friend when I moved because I didn't have any room, and then I was like, you can borrow it indefinitely.
Didn't have any room.
Yeah, and I was like, you can borrow it indefinitely, and then I'll take it back when I want it. And then it just never came up. And now his aunt has it.
Because at what point do you like say, you know what? I've been thinking about that chair, and I want it.
Yeah, I actually messaged him when I went back to Washington, and I was planning on taking it back. But but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It was, the point I was going to say is that the woman who owned it reupholstered it, and the reupholster was not great, but it was still a beautiful chair, but it was reupholstered with striped green fabric, and it was not great. I wish it was like a gold mustard. Yeah. And more of like a like not like a shiny fabric, more of like a woven fabric. That would have looked better with the chair. Clearly, if you can't tell already, I love furniture. Anyway, mid-century modern.
It was amazing. Yeah. There was so much. There was a lot of people there, and the prices were crazy, but I still get, we see there was a handful of Eames chairs, and, you see them at $5,300 and you see that they marked as sold. and you're like, holy crap, I would love to have one of those someday. But
Yeah.
people enjoy them.
How do I
So
put the do not disturb? Oh, put focus. Do not disturb. Okay. Okay. Good. I didn't realize that my computer would ding.
oh, okay. I was gonna say,
Uh,
if you hear the meowing, that is Marvel. I don't have a do not disturb for that sound. So yeah,
yeah.
the show was great. We bought a cocktail shaker.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like a glass cocktail shaker with some gold accents on it, gold and green, and then it's got like a metal top, and it's cool. It's got like a little loop on the side of the lid that has like a spoon in it. It's like a
Yeah.
gold spoon that you like stir the cocktail with. So that's pretty cool. I actually found that and was like, hey, Rachel, we need another one of these because we only have one that's like
Yeah.
very big. Because normally we make doubles and it's like you can't really fit that much in a small shaker. And I'm not gonna mix the same exact thing twice. So
Yeah. Seriously.
we got that, and Rachel got like a decorative purse or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. So that was Saturday. Went to a Cyclones hockey game. That was great. I like watching hockey. Have you gone?
Yeah.
You haven't gone to one of the indie hockey games there, right? The Indy
No, I
Fuel.
haven't. I've gone to a Ducks game in LA with Jen,
Mhm.
but because her cousin has like season tickets and they're like right on the
The glass.
wall. Yeah,
Wow.
right on the glass. And so it's really cool. And that was the first hockey game I'd ever been to. And the only
Oh,
the
really?
first and only. But I like it. I love all sports. I love
Yeah.
all sports. I just don't they're just not high enough in my value category to watch
Right.
them.
And those tickets, if you would have actually paid for them on the glass, I'm sure they would have been like $200 for that
Oh my
seat,
god, so much money.
or more. I don't know in LA or Anaheim like what
Yeah,
those tickets
and
are, but
she even has like a parking spot like
oh my
right by the
gosh.
stadium.
Yeah, those tickets
Yeah.
are ridiculous.
Yeah, insane. So, yeah, it was really fun and it was like packed and there was so much and she like gave me a jersey to wear and
Oh, that's great.
like yeah.
I like the
I was
pros, but like the pros is cool because they're really fast and
yeah.
it's more finesse, I think, when you watch pros versus like
Yeah.
minor league. Minor league is more rough and
Yeah.
there's more action going on and there's more
Yeah,
fights. So I would
it's
say
kind of like
overall I like it better.
minor league baseball. I fucking love minor league baseball. It's like it's just like so chill, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like when somebody hits a home run, it's an actual thing, you know? It's not just like, oh yeah, somebody just hit a home run. You
Yeah.
know?
The
Like it's
pros
an
seems like
actual.
slower and more methodical, and you know
Yeah,
that they're taking
yeah.
breaks for commercials and
Yeah.
ads and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I love minor league sports. I think they're great. And there's like a minor league baseball stadium. Well, there are a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
right by
cops
your
in.
house.
Yeah, it's right. Like I can walk.
Down, yeah.
It's maybe a
Indianapolis
mile.
Indians. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Until they change. Wait, are they going to change their name? They probably will,
I
right?
don't know.
I
I don't
just
know.
realized they're still called the Indians.
I know. I thought they might, but I don't know. I
They
mean,
wouldn't just change their
regardless,
name.
yeah. Um, I don't know if Jamil likes baseball or
Baseball.
not. I'm sure he would like it for the
You'd probably like
act.
the hockey.
I think he would like the hockey. I don't he doesn't really like sports, but he likes the social part of sports, you know.
Oh yeah, especially
So
minor league. Like those things are social as hell.
I know you just take like a picnic and sit on the grass and like hell yeah.
I was
That
thinking
is
at the
what
hockey game. I'm like, they got a berm at the hockey game.
no. I was thinking of baseball, but yeah.
I know. I know.
I also like, Rachel asked me if I wanted to go to that mid-century thing and I was like, "No. It's my second weekend back and I probably shouldn't
Yeah.
like leave." But, honestly, I think he would have loved it because now that I've like started dating him, he's like
Getting
figuring
appreciation for
out
it.
yeah, he's like figuring out what mid-century modern is and so that's been fun.
Yeah. Do you get? I mean,
I'm like,
You don't get necessarily dulled to seeing more furniture that because you've already had a love of it for so long that you
me?
like have seen a
No.
lot. So
I
so
could I
someone
could
new coming into it, he probably gets a lot of like, oh, that's really cool. Like I haven't seen
Yeah.
anything like that, and you're like, oh yeah, that's an Eames chair.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, he just didn't know that that's, like, it exists, you know? Not that he's necessarily into it, but because I'm into it, he's like, "Oh, I need to, like, kind of figure out what this is." And
Well,
so,
you can like understand why somebody else has interest in it. Not that you have to have
yeah,
the same level of interest, but
yeah. And, like, for me, I don't know, people probably don't know this, but for me, my love of furniture and my love of mid-century modern furniture came from my very first job, where I worked for a production company, but it was
mhm,
like small, you know, and so like it
yeah,
was like these two people that went to my church, and so I started working for them, and he had the marshmallow couch, he had an Eames couch, he had four Eames uh chairs, like the fiberglass ones. They had the tulip table. He had all just in this office
yeah.
was like this collection of mid-century modern furniture, and he had a Herman Miller chair, um and then he had books and books and books of like the chair book, the furniture book, you know. So
Wow,
I basically like grew up where I like found all my interests was at this job. And so that's like where I kind of got my love for it.
nice. I think I
So
discovered another reason of like something that I love now, and I realized it this weekend was
what?
like my love of stand-up comedy. And I think it's
Oh,
because as a kid, when I would my dad would drive me to school every day, and we lived about 25, 30 minutes from my high school. And he would always listen to Bob and Tom on the radio. Do you know what Bob and Tom
mm-hmm.
is? And
No, but that's fine.
it's a comedy show that's hosted every morning from 6 to 10. It's actually hosted in Indianapolis.
Mm.
It's local to Indianapolis. If you ask, it's a morning radio show, but they kind of
Does it
have
still happen?
comedies. Yeah, it's still on. I don't know if they have all the same cast or staff that are on it, but um,
Okay.
it's like a comedy, show. They talk about stuff, and
Yeah.
they always had a lot of comedians on that were doing shows in Indianapolis that weekend or in Louisville or whatever, and they would get on the radio show and they would talk, and then they would have comedy skits and they would have different people on
Right.
there and they would just talk. And I think that's where I kind of got that like itch for comedians when
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was younger,
probably.
and you just like subconsciously remember that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like now you're getting more into the comedians and like discovering new people, and you hear like the big names like Jim Gaffigan or
Yeah.
the really popular people, or it's just local people that you just see, and maybe they're really clean and they're something that your kid could listen to on the
Yeah.
drive to school, and they just kind of get that little itch for like what's funny and like why it's funny and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like all I feel like all of my like interests came from this job, and I don't know why, but it just like maybe they just like opened up this box inside me that was like, "Oh, this is like what you like." You know?
yeah,
Like I started watching MASH after, I think it was maybe right before I started that job, but like during, we definitely talked about MASH a lot. And then Charlie Chaplin and old silent films became huge in my life during that time.
just because you had
And
a group that you could talk about it with that shared that, or they had the interest in it, or
they had the interest in it, and then like it kind of transferred to me, you
they
know?
were like, oh,
And
you've got to
so,
see this thing, I love this thing,
right.
I've seen it X number of times, you've never seen it, oh my gosh, you got to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, and like they would do movie nights for all of our friends and stuff, and like education, and like, you know, Dave would get up and like talk about the movie and talk about the history, and then we watch it. And like sometimes they'd rent out the theater downtown that was a historical theater, and so somebody would play the piano while we watched like a Buster Keaton like silent film like at the
Oh
theater.
wow.
So it was like that was like a huge part of my,
Yeah,
14 to 18 life. And
you have these
but yeah,
memories of that time and like who you were around and
totally.
like the smells of the theater and the like, the whatever snacks you got, or the ritual of doing it on Saturdays, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. And then things like that happen over time. Like I wasn't interested in tiki until Rachel was super interested in tiki,
Right.
Or like Michael Bublé. Like I never knew Michael Bublé until I knew Rachel loved him, and then I'm like, oh, now we've went to like 4 concerts or whatever, and I'm like, hey, he's coming. I look at the concert, like, you want to go to another show or like Nora Jones or whatever, you know?
It's funny how a significant other really just like changes changes the way you kind of like view things and like makes you open up your like box of
Yeah. But I can still
yeah,
shit on like rom-coms. Like I'm still gonna shit on her rom-coms that she picks and chooses to watch. I'm like,
obviously.
that's like a 6.2 on IMDb. Like, come on. But it's like, all right, I mean, I could see the appeal.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I mean, I like shitty rom-com movies. They, I usually skip the bad part and then just go to the ending. Oh,
but you already know the ending. That's the point.
I know.
That's why I don't like it. Because it's like, you know what you're watching here. Like,
No, every movie ends the same way. I'm sorry to break this to you, but every movie, 20 minutes before the ending, there's something drastic that happens that's like really upsetting, and then at the very end it like all gets resolved unless it's the newest James Bond movie, which is infuriating and sad. Don't watch it.
is
If
it
you
like a
don't want to
finale
cry.
kind of movie?
Kinda. I don't want to give any spoilers.
Spoiler,
So
spoiler.
I won't, but like it was upsetting. Um and then okay, can I tell you what's been happening recently is that I've always hated Daniel Craig, like ever since he started doing James Bond because of his face. I just don't like him. And like I like I don't know why. I just like when I went, I think it was because I fucking loved Pierce Brosnan, which I know everybody's like, ew, what a sleazeball. I really, really liked um Die Another Day. Like
I've
that was
never seen any of the Pierce Brosnan ones, honestly.
Die Another Day was with
Halle Berry.
what's her face? Halle Berry, and it was so fucking good. Maybe I just loved Halle Berry, but like it was so good. And in my opinion, because there was like an ice castle and it was fucking bomb. Anyway, so like I loved Pierce Brosnan, and then Daniel Craig comes and he looks like this snooty little rich kid, and I like just never I couldn't even get through Casino Royale like 10 fucking years ago or how many years ago it was. And then finally we watched the newest James Bond, which is the last one that Daniel Craig does. And then I was like, well, he's not that bad, I guess.
So
And
it
so
takes you to the
now,
end and you're like, all right.
yeah, so now I'm starting to watch all of the other James Bond movies, starting with Casino Royale, and I've decided that they're all fucking sad. And, but then, I don't know. I just like, it's just a frustrating moment in my life right now with Daniel Craig and how I
Okay.
feel about him. And
I mean,
that's where we're
that's
at.
a series that's kind of like a Batman series. Like who's your favorite Batman? Who's your favorite
Oh, for sure.
007? You know,
Yeah, 007.
I
Yeah.
don't have enough
Well,
007 experience to say. I mean, I
you know
would probably
what's
say Daniel Craig because I don't really watch the Sean Connery ones or the Pierce Brosnan ones, but I don't have any other.
yeah.
I don't have enough of a.
You know what's ironic and weird about the 007 series is that like so it's been James Bond 007 for so many years, and obviously I think they're trying to get out of like you know I think for so many years it's been the same quote unquote person, but then when Daniel Craig started, M was like, I'm promoting you. And so I was like, oh, so he's new. And then, so is it a new James Bond every time? Or is it the same James Bond, just in like different stages of life? Or like, what is it? And now, this is a spoiler. So
Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Skip, skip, skip.
skip to a minute, like skip a minute. Now I'm not a super spoiler, but like now is it, is it like it could be a woman, it could be a man, it could be, that could be a black human, a white human, like they're trying to like make this make James Bond more inclusive and more like,
I think it's supposed to be more wide reaching, right?
Yeah, and as they should, and as they always
I
should.
don't know about
But
like what is the 007? Is that a role? Is that a title?
so 007 is a title.
Okay.
It is a number. So like you could be 005, you know. Um but 007 became the number of like that agent,
Oh,
and
okay. So
it
that's his
became
actual number.
that's his
That's
number.
his
So he's
identity.
notorious for being 007, and
So nobody else is 007 besides that person.
right. And in the new movie they play a lot with that. And so yeah.
Okay.
So kind of crazy. So there actually wasn't any spoilers, but in the so in the new
I mean, I
movie they
think you
kind of
kind of
like,
knew that though. They've been talking about Idris Elba
oh
and other
yeah.
characters or other actors, you know, teased out for who's going to be the next.
Yeah. I'm excited for the next chapter of 007.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
a Batman fan? Like, are you going to see the new Batman with Robert Pattinson and stuff?
I don't know. I'm not really a Batman fan, and I'm definitely, as I've discovered, not a Spider-Man fan. I'm like 150% not a Spider-Man fan.
Okay. I'm not that big of I'm just generally not a Marvel. Like, I'm not a superhero movie fan. Like, there's just too many out there, and they're typically just action for action's sake. And I'm like, there's too many characters to follow, and there's too many threads. And like, I've only seen the first Avengers, not seen any other one. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like the Star Wars stuff. Like, I don't really have an interest in seeing that. Like, I
That's
know
sad.
it's
I
gonna be good
think in
action, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is really good action. I feel like I am a Marvel fan. Not like a super Marvel fan, but like a couple of years ago I went into this like crazy Marvel like downhill spiral where I just watched every single movie in order
Oh, really?
in like 3 days. And so I remember when I watched Spider-Man, it was cringeworthy. Like I couldn't handle it. I had to like take a break and walk into the bar next door.
Like
Um
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man?
no, not the original Spider-Man, the Marvel's
Oh,
Spider-Man.
like Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, which I like Tom Holland. However, I just don't like the character that he plays. It's just very
Okay.
like
I think once
stupid.
we started hitting like mid 2000s or late 2000s, that's when it just boomed. And like
Yeah.
I was in it when it was like, Batman Begins and Dark Knight and stuff. And then like early Spider-Man, like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and
Yeah.
some of that stuff. But once you hit like Avengers and Thor and Hulk
Yeah.
and all these other it just blew up that I'm like, I'm out. Like that's just too much to keep track.
See, that's the part I like. I like that they kind of all interconnect and they like have little, and then they all come together in the end, which is kind of fun. I loved Black Panther. That was so
I
good.
still have never watched that.
I think you should watch Black Panther. That one was really,
It
really
was on
good. And then
Netflix, yeah, period. I
I
need to watch it.
I really loved the Iron Man movies too.
I did see those. I
Hmm.
think that was still early on. That was
Yeah,
like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man to
yeah,
Spider-Man 3 timeline, I think. Like when
yeah,
those first Iron Mans came out and I was like, "Okay, I'm in on
yeah,
Iron Man 1 too." But like once they
yeah.
start getting to like the other ones, I don't know. That's
I put off watching Captain America for such a long time, um, because I didn't like the actor's face.
You didn't like Chris Evans?
Yeah, I don't know. He looks kind of dumb, and if
I
you
remember him in
haven't
like
noticed,
Fantastic Four, Chris Evans.
if you
Like those are
haven't
like
noticed,
cringe if you watch them.
If you haven't noticed, like I won't watch something if I think somebody's like face is not appropriate. Like I
Daniel
fucking
Craig, Chris Evans is not on Becca's top list apparently.
and Elijah Wood. I fucking hate Elijah Wood so much. Like I like he is
Like Lord of
just
the Rings, like if you don't want, I've never
I
watched
liked
those, but
okay,
do
I
you watch
liked
those?
Lord of the Rings. I liked Lord of the Rings and I felt like he fit into that role, but he's just a fucking creepy human. Like he has this like high ass voice, like he has this high voice and this like his face. Oh my god, Green Street Hooligans, I couldn't. I like tried to watch I tried. I tried to watch it. It's so bad.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
ugh.
You ever watch like a throwback Elijah Wood? There's this movie called The Good Son. It's got Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin in it.
Oh
They're
no.
basically cousins, and Macaulay Culkin comes and stays with them. And Macaulay Culkin is a fucking demon child. Like he is visiting, and he's like killing animals like demon. Like
Oh wow, like
he's like
psychopath
got it
kid.
out for his cousin, and he's like doing shit and blaming it on his cousin. And his cousin just wants nothing to do with him. Elijah Wood is just like a kid that's got this like that long Beatles looking haircut, and Macaulay Culkin is just fucking like crazy.
I think I could probably do that because he's younger, but now that like Elijah Wood's older and he still has that high voice, he just reminds me of a pedophile. I just can't. I like I
I don't even know a newer Elijah Wood movie besides when he was Lord of the Rings. Like I feel like there's one when he's like a young teenager or something that I'm thinking of, but I can't remember.
well, Green Street Hooligans is when he goes to Europe and he
Never
like
seen that.
gets involved with this soccer league and he's a reporter and like he does a journal and then they find his journal and then it's just like a whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
If it could have been just like Snatch or something, I would have been great. It would have been great. It was just too awkward.
Yeah,
I do love Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is versatile and I like him.
Yeah, I like Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, who knew this was going to be so
Our movie reviews,
yeah.
people are probably screaming.
Oh my gosh, they're like these fuckers don't like Ryan's never seen Lord of the Rings. They don't like Marvel. Like what the fuck am I listening to these people for?
This is all you. This is all you.
I'm just building a bigger list to shit on me. I don't care.
I mean,
I don't care.
I think I've seen so many fucking movies that like, but that's just been half of my life, you know.
I had this big like movie collection thing when I was a teenager and stuff. So I was telling my assistant last week that when I was a kid, I would always get. Do you know Circuit City?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I used to look forward to getting the ads on Sunday, and you open up Circuit City, and they have the, $3 for $7 movies or $3 for $10 movies, and you look at the stack. It's like a pile of movies, and it's all spines of them. So you're like looking intently at like what movies are in the pile. And then
Oh my
you go in there
God.
and they just have it in a big bin. So you just hope that the movie that you're looking for is there.
Is there.
So you can get them for that deal.
That's like the $5 movies from Walmart. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's like the best date night too. Like if you have a DVD player, just like going in and just reaching into the $5 bin without even fucking
Ooh, I'm
looking
not that risky. Fuck that.
and picking it out. Ugh. Yeah.
I mean,
And
honestly,
like
that'd be better decision making than trying saying, all right, let's go to Netflix. We're going to find something like I am
that's
so
the fucking
indecisive.
worst. That's the worst.
We got my parents were over after the hockey game and we were like gonna watch a movie and it was from my Plex media thing, which is just a series of all the movies that I own. So it's
You
like
have Plex
900 movies.
too?
Yeah.
Why didn't I know this?
What?
You
I have
have Plex?
Yeah, it's just do you know what I'm talking about, right? It's the
I have my brother's Plex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well actually it's his like his friends. There's so many fucking movies on there. I
didn't
don't
realize
even
that
need
was like outside of your actual home network. So you can share it and then log into the Plex account and see everything, even
Yeah.
though you don't have it stored at your physical place.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Can you just
Yeah.
share them? Like, could I share it with you if you wanted to like see the library?
I think so. We should try
Oh,
it.
okay. But yeah, so they were like, let's watch something we haven't seen, and I'm like, good luck.
Yeah, right.
Just like, I mean, we ended up watching Stand By Me, which I don't know how my mom has never watched Stand By Me, but
Oh, that's so fucking sad. It's like such a sad movie. Like, I don't think I'd choose that for a Saturday night.
but they never seen it. They're like, I heard about it.
Did she cry?
No, she didn't cry.
Okay.
We had tiki drinks around the fire and watched Stand By Me.
I'm not gonna lie. On the we were watching the new James Bond movie, and it fucking like at the very end, I had to leave. I was like, I'm gonna start crying, and then, I had to leave.
You had to leave?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm like getting into depressed mode, and so it's a lot easier for me to cry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I'm not like
that's
a
where
movie
we're at.
crier. The only movie crier I'm in is like Field of Dreams. Playing catch at the end gets me.
Oh God, so sad. It's I I used to cry all the time in movies. Like what? Like
That you've
Tarzan.
seen a
Oh
lot?
no, not the ones that I've seen a lot. Just new movies that I
That like
don't know
get
what's
you you're
coming.
like you're I feel like the ones you see a lot you actually you kind of overlook things when you watch them, and then you
Yeah,
like something hits because you're like, oh, I didn't notice that, and then you're like,
I
oh,
didn't.
now I real like you understand the characters like more. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I would
Have
see
you
it
seen
more.
Have you seen Encanto? Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, it's the new like one of the new Disney movies, and like all the kids are obsessed with it. And so when I went over to Teresa's and Brandon's last Sunday, Paige was like, "Becca, you haven't seen Encanto? Can we watch it?" Paige is 5, and
Yeah,
and, and I was
because I'm
like,
sure her
"Yeah,
parents are
absolutely."
like encantoed out because they probably watch it nonstop.
No, they put a cap on how much they can watch it. Um,
You're talking about
Brandon does.
individual
Teresa doesn't.
number of times that Disney lets you watch the video.
No. Like my friends put a cap on how many times their children can watch the movies. So like they didn't want it to become like another Frozen for them. So she's
Oh,
like, you can't
okay.
watch it anymore. Like they can only watch it on special occasions and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
okay. Wow.
so we watched it, and it's really good. And then I found out that I think I already knew this, but I'm basically a 5-year-old child, and I've watched it 3 or 4 times since.
Wow.
Because like it was like really good, and then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna watch this during work because now I already know the songs and they're fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
We watched the Moana at my brother's once during
Yeah,
it. Like I'd never seen it, and they watched it. They watched it on repeat at that time. So I was like, oh, this is actually like good.
yeah.
Like I can get with the songs and the story, and like it's not too bad. And
I
I
re-
did like the new Lion King. Did you see that one? The live action? Like that one's
I did
actually
not.
a little bit
Tearjerker.
a little bit, yeah. Probably because it's like real looking
Real
animals, so it's
animals.
like, oh,
Yeah,
this is not just like characters, you know.
yeah, yeah. I cried. Okay, I went to see Lion King in theater, and I remember um apparently we're just having a night.
Yeah.
What we're going to talk about is not going to happen. Anyway, I was 5 years old when Lion King came out, and like 4 or 5. And
1994 is when it came out.
4. I was 4 years old when it came out. And I apologize for anybody that just felt old in that moment. I'm sorry. So we were driving to Lion King with my aunt and my cousins and my siblings, and there was not enough room for me to sit, so I was sitting on my cousin's lap in the front seat, and I was still buckled in, but like I was sitting on her lap. And then we got pulled over by the cops, and I hate cops. Like I hated cops at the time. I don't hate cops, but I like hated cops at the time.
You were 4 years old and you already hated cops?
Oh yeah. The hate for cops and firefighters came very early for me. Um yeah, I include firefighters in that because I had fire trauma when I was
Wow.
younger. So anyway, I was traumatized by this cop pulling us over, and we could literally see the movie theater when he pulled us over. And so then he like let us off, and we were like, meh. And then we get to Lion King. It's fucking sad, and I'm crying the whole time. And it like completely traumatized me. We got the VHS of the Lion King, and we did not open it ever.
Oh my
It is
gosh.
still, I'm pretty sure my mom still has it in the original plastic wrap.
That thing's worth some money.
I mean, like, I'm not sure. I don't know if she ever did or not, but like, we never watched it after. we went to the theater. We never watched it because I couldn't handle it.
Not even off of VHS, like other mediums? You've never watched it again?
I watched it probably like 5 times.
Okay.
Like, I love Hakuna Matata. Like, I love all the songs. But, like, oof, man.
Man, Elton John. Gotta love it.
Finding Nemo, I've probably seen 25, 30, 40, 50 times.
25 to 50, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Well, every Friday, my mom would be like, what do you want to watch? And I'd be like, Finding Nemo. That was in high school.
Oh, man.
I've been that little kid
in high school
all my life.
I feel like Finding Nemo was one of those like transitional period like movies. Maybe it was because it was that time of our lives where it was like, okay, we're kind of too old now to like watch this, like be excited about watching this, but it's also like bookend sort of because it's like a new movie that's Disney that's
well, it was Disney Pixar. That's when Pixar picked up Disney, so it was like this new, you know?
Yeah. And it wasn't like Toy Story 3 or something. That was like
Princess.
the third. It was like a brand new thing.
It was different. Yeah. Finding Nemo and Cars. Oof. I think that the thing is that like I think that I've had anxiety all my life without actually realizing it. And so watching the same movie over and over just like
I think that's what Rachel says. Like the same thing.
It's just
it level sets. Like there's no.
It's just
you're not going to get any surprises here. You know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, no surprises. Know exactly what to get. You enjoy it. It's like, I went through a time probably.
I think that's why we listen to the same music.
Yeah.
At certain stages of your life, you don't want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I went through a time probably 3-4 months ago. Also, I have insanely crazy dreams. Like I have a fucking movie dream every single night. Like
you're in the movie or from a movie that you've seen?
No, like my dreams are movie quality.
Oh.
Like the other day I had a dream that I was in the strip mall and it transformed and there was a bunch of ninjas and there was magic and there was a dragon and it was like we had to like get the golden stuff and like we had to fight all these fucking ninjas and it was intense and there was like a fortress that built in the middle. Like if I wrote down
set of Rush Hour or
no, if I wrote down these dreams, I guarantee you plenty of sci-fi movies, plenty of like action movies, all of the above. So like I have all these crazy dreams, right? Because of the medication I'm on. And so like I went through a time there that I literally couldn't even watch a movie, like any movie that I hadn't seen before, because I like would get like 5 minutes in and I was like, I can't do this.
You knew it was going to impact your dreams that you're like, I can't just, it's not done when this movie's done.
No, well, probably, yeah. And it was just like the stress of like what was going to happen was just like too much. Yeah.
Wow.
Craziness. Maybe we should probably start talking about what we're going to talk about.
I think that was fun.
It was fun. I would love to have movie conversations. We should have a segment every quarter that's like like we pick something and review it. Like let's talk about music next.
Like why you listen to the same stations over and over, because I sure do.
Yeah, why I listen to like I just start at the top of my playlist every single day.
The same playlist? Do you shuffle it at least?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
Nope. I mean, like, it's a really long playlist, and I add new songs like every 2 weeks. Okay. So it moves down, but yeah. Anyway, okay, what are we talking about?
All right, so today we're finally going to talk about, not finally because we haven't before, I'm saying because it's taken so long to get to this point today. We're going to talk about the difference between slips and underglazes. I use both of them. Becca uses mostly underglazes. And we'll kind of talk about the situations where you'd want to use one over the other, benefits, pros, cons, all that kind of stuff that affect how you decide there. And then we might even dip into a little bit of stroking coats and things like that. So at a base level, I'm not going to get super technical with slips and underglazes, but
no.
Slip, how would you basically explain what a slip is?
This is an intermediate podcast. We expect you to know a little bit coming into this one.
Or how we're distinguishing between the two.
Yeah, so slip is wet clay. Like if you take dry clay and slake it down to a wet consistency, it's basically like slippery Play-Doh. No, like pudding. It's like pudding.
Yeah, like pudding yogurt.
Pudding yogurt consistency. It can be thinner or thicker. That's what they use to slip cast with. Hence the name. And you can color it different colors and paint it onto pots and then do sgraffito that way. Or you can do underglaze, and let's talk about what underglaze is.
Yeah, what's the difference in underglaze? I'm trying to think. It's more of a, it's got pigment added to it, but it's not just clay. It's
a glaze.
It's got some other thing to it, like a gum solution or something like that. Are you Googling it? Mm-hmm. We should have come more prepared, but
do we ever come prepared?
I don't know. Shooting from the hip here. You know, it's funny because I saw Curt kind of talking about underglazes recently and that he makes his own, so it was kind of interesting to.
Yeah, you can make your own underglazes.
See what made those.
So the difference between, I think that the biggest difference between slip and underglazes is that slip shrinks, underglazes don't. However, underglazes have the ability to expand and contract with the clay as it moves through different firings. So, you know, like you can put an underglaze on at greenware stage, or you can put it on at bisqueware stage. You cannot put a slip on at bisqueware stage. You can put it on at greenware stage, but it has to be wet, at least a little bit.
The underglaze has like just the right amount of moisture that the only moisture that's coming out of it is not affecting the shrinkage of it. The slip still has moisture there it's still gonna shrink because there's enough clay in it that it still abides by the shrinkage.
Yeah.
That your regular clay body would. So
yeah, it's sort of a slip, but there's not as much clay in the recipe per se.
Right. I'm trying to think of what was on Curt's thing that talked about what was in it. I thought it was kind of interesting because he talked about there was something that's like semi-common, but it's not something I was thinking that was making up
Is it EPK?
No, it was something else. It was like a household material or something. I probably shouldn't be figuring this out on the fly, but
well, this is what we do, so they're probably trying to figure it out anyway. Like if you weren't going to try and figure it out, somebody would pause the fucking episode and look it up on the Google, and then they'd try and find it too.
On the Googles.
On the Googles. Okay, so slip and underglaze are both made of a mixture of clay and water. However, slip contains more clay and can add texture to pottery. Underglaze contains some glass-forming ingredients and behave more like a glaze. Also, unlike slip, underglaze keeps its color when fired. Slip tends to change color. Okay, I kind of agree with this, but also you can put texture in underglazes just fine. So that's inaccurate. But the more you do,
I think they're talking about the viscosity of it.
Yeah. Because they're talking about doing like slip trailing.
Yeah.
You know.
Do slips tend to move do they abide by gravity where underglazes may do something differently? I know you've been doing more painterly stuff with yours, so
I think the underglazes are really stable.
Yeah.
Mine are, at least.
Does it depend on when you adhere them and put them on the pot, whether they're going to move? Like if you put them, maybe I'm just thinking of like a slip trailing, like you mentioned, like it's thicker.
Yeah. No, and also, what was I going to say?
I think the underglazes tend to move more with glazes on top of them, though. Like they can move Where slips,
I would,
colored slips,
yes,
like are
I
not gonna
think,
like.
yeah, I think some may, but I would say majority, most may not. Like, so here's the thing with so like I use Stroke and Coats and Mako fundamental underglazes. Okay, so I'm a Mako lady. And Mako, if you want to sponsor me, I would love that. Um, P.S. Somebody send this to them, please. Um,
She will give honest feedback about your products.
I will, very honest, very honest. And since I use them, you know that it's good. Because fuck Amico. What? I didn't say that. We should probably take that out.
She didn't shit on my group.
Oh, Speedball sucks too. Anyway, Amico has great colors. I will give them that. But anyway, it's too expensive. So when you put a stroking coat on like just bare clay, it's got more tendency to move than if you put a stroking coat on an underglaze. So if you put stroking coat on underglaze, it's staying put.
And the
It's not
stroking
going
coat,
anywhere.
high level, is a glaze. Stroking coat is
It's a glaze. A glaze.
Yes.
It's a shiny glaze. So when you put stroking coat on an underglaze, it's not fucking moving it out at all. And when you put it on just bare clay, it's got a tendency to kind of flux a little.
Is that because the underglaze has that glass former in it? So it's like I'm gonna
It
suck you to
must.
me, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna move.
Yeah, it must. I don't know why it does it, but I like noticed when I was doing the fancy cups that when I would do a thin line over the underglaze and then onto the cup again, that it was like spreading out once it got onto just the bare cup. So now when I do like a thin line, I always do a full thing of underglaze on the line first, and then
so if you were to put
do
a
the shiny.
line on bare clay, underglaze, bare clay, like you could almost see like a shift, like it dropped a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Oh.
spreads out. It like thins out almost. Like, but if I was gonna put it on underglaze, it would stay up and it would keep its textural like integrity, like the textile integrity that it has, that like
Oh.
bumpiness. Yeah. So like if you put the underglaze down first, it's like prime. Like prime.
That
But
could
if
be an
you
interesting technique if you were to like show that there's like gravity, and it's like, why is it not adhering to the same gravity on this part of
I
the
don't know.
pot, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So you do when you do your sgraffito, you do it with black slip.
Yeah.
Right.
So I use slips in black and gray. I don't usually use the gray that much, but the gray is just the trimmings from the black slip.
Okay.
With water. So it's got my white clay body with some black, and that becomes basically, I call like 50% black, like a medium gray. And then, but my black is, it's slip. So it's my white clay body, which is Iceman, broken down trimming bits, slaked down in water, and I do it all dry, weigh out 20% of a black mason stain. I think I do the 6600 or something like that.
6600 is black.
Yeah, and 20%
jet black
dry weight into the dry trimmings, slake it all down with water, emulsion blender. And then another thing, I don't know what we talked about, but you can add water to slips and shake them up. I'm sure you could add some water to underglazes and shake them up, but you probably don't want to do too much of that.
No, you can.
You can.
And I do.
Does it change the intensity of it to do that at all?
I mean, you have to potentially do more strokes, but like, I have some underglazes that dry out a little bit and I just add a little water into it and then stir it up.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So those are black, and I mostly do the black that way because I use a lot more of it. And I think I can generally get a couple good coats on it and it's covered. If I were to use underglaze, I would have to do 3 coats.
Yeah.
To get a good even coverage. I don't know about with black underglaze because usually I'm using colored underglazes for that stuff, and those generally need more coats anyways because they're not as dark to cover up the clay body. But yeah, you do have to get it at the right consistency. All of those get added at greenware stage, all the slip or underglaze. And yeah, I the main reason I have the difference is the cost of the thing, even though if I wanted to, I could ask for black underglaze from Speedball and they would give it to me because they are nice to me and have been for a while, and we have a
They
good
have a relationship.
partnership. Yeah. But yeah, I just like the slip, and like you said, you could put it on a greenware. It's not gonna have issues. I have had issues with some of the underglaze colors. Certain colors do well, certain colors don't. So I tend to stick with the colors that do really well, that are consistent, that I know can come out well. There's just more room for issues, I think, with underglaze versus slip.
Yeah.
For me.
Right. Well, and I think that you put a clear glaze over the underglaze. Like I don't put a clear glaze over, so I don't have that extra layer of
that other variable.
compatibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is something to definitely consider because if you did a colored slip, the likelihood of you having an issue is very minimal.
Because it's basically like your clay. It is your clay,
Yeah.
but it has color
It's
added to it. So
very
the
minimal.
only
Like
issue would be the colorant. Is
probably
the colorant an issue?
Yeah, sometimes the colorant can be an issue. So like if it was cobalt, you would just have to set it to it would have to gas out more in the bisque. Or if you did a slower bisque schedule like what we have on our Instagram page, that should work for cobalt. It's just like iron, you want it to gas out and get, like a dark clay body, same thing. You want to make sure that you're getting all of the particles out. I don't know the technical term. Josh is probably yelling at me right now. All of the you just want to make sure that all the gases escape. And I've had the same issue with cobalt blue too. You just have to get them out. Sometimes you'll get bubbles under your white glaze or your clear glaze if there's a blue under there or a red or an iron base. So what yeah, so that's what I would say is if you want a solid color under a clear, I think your best bet is a colored slip if you can do a colored slip. Now, so both of my studio mates, Sarah Anderson Ceramics and then Merritt Metzger, they both do sgraffito and they both swear by Amico underglazes, which totally fine. I don't do sgraffito. So I know that, and they're different. There's all the underglazes are different. So,
the brands is what you're saying.
Yeah, the brands. And Merritt was telling me, so she tried Speedball, she hated it, and the reason she didn't like it was because it basically rehydrated her pots, and it made them too wet to work on. And I think she tried Mako. I haven't heard how she liked it, but the reason that she likes Amico is because you didn't have to do as many.
It's a more intense color when you paint it on.
You didn't have to do as many coats, and you can see it's just an easy there's a little bit more depth in it. So when because she's doing really fine sgraffito and birds and flowers and stuff. So, and same with
when you say depth, are you
Sarah.
talking about the thickness of the layers?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And Sarah does a lot of vibrant colors and she mixes her own colors and stuff. But I've noticed that she'll do pretty hefty layers on top of other colors, and the Amico does an okay job. But what I've noticed, and I think that everybody would say this is the same thing, reds have an issue and they always will. Always.
It's whatever colorants that they have to do to get to that.
Yeah, red pigment. It's just hard, and so they're always gonna bubble a little bit, or they're just I don't know anybody that has good luck with reds. So I mean I don't know,
some of that is it's some of the fight you put up with is do you go with the fight and do you stand up to it and just figure it out and troubleshoot until you can get that resolved, or do you avoid it? Do you say, you know what, I can change my palette a little bit and avoid that one color? Or
right, you'll notice that my pottery doesn't have a lot of reds in it. If it's shiny, it won't have red in it. And the reason being is because Stroke and Coat's 74, which is the reddest red they have, bubbles at cone 6. It no, it doesn't bubble. It orange peels, so it has little tiny pinholes.
Ooh.
At cone 6, and like you can get around it. You can, you can biscuit again and do some things, but like I've just found that and like you can do lighter coats, but I want a really vibrant color,
Mm-hmm.
and I've just found that it's just easier not not
Just
to.
just don't do that.
Yeah, and it's just the way it is. Like like the darker the red, the more a pain in the ass it's probably gonna be. And in my experience, I
I feel
could
like
be
that's
wrong,
why we
but
always hate the people that'll ask for, can I have it in red? Because you're like, I
yeah.
know that fight that I'm gonna have to go through if
Hmm.
I say yes, and I
Yeah.
just don't want to put up with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with firing schedules. I mean, I've found that firing schedules help with those, um, with reds at least and blues. Like just doing a really slow schedule and maybe holding at a certain time,
Yeah.
like a slow crawl up. It just might be the way that you're firing your pieces, but
Positive
yeah.
result, by the way. I got my best kiln firing last week.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Consistently top to bottom,
Ooh,
and it was great. I think it was
that's
one of the
amazing.
first times that I actually filled a whole kiln and fired it on my like newer schedule that was not just like a bunch of kiln furniture and some sporadic shit. It was like a
Yeah,
normal kiln filling for me. I
at
did
this
that.
house.
Well, I mean, on that schedule, like I've never done that schedule, which is like a medium cycle in that big kiln, in the L&L kiln.
Oh, you mean not doing a fast firing made
Yes,
your pots
yes.
better? What?
I think
What?
looking back at it, I think the fast firing is the big reason why my kilns are not consistent from top to bottom and have been.
Shocker. Shocker. I'm shocked. I'm fucking shocked.
Not shocked by the tone of your voice.
Like,
So I
duh.
just had to just had to lay it down here. Medium,
I love you, Ryan, so
medium
much.
work. Perfect. Fucking mint.
Mm.
So I hope that has a positive impact of some of the issues I was having with my underglazes. I did not have the underglazes in this kiln firing, but
Oh, that's a very good point, and I think it definitely will.
because some of the questions and some of the issues I've had with the underglazes are on specific colors
Yeah.
where um they were coming out and the color was kind of peeling away
Yeah.
and you could see the bare clay through it.
Okay.
There was no glaze on it.
It crawled off.
It kind of looked like it like roll like the underglaze like rolled
Yeah.
away. It wasn't like
Yeah.
sharp or anything, but it kind of looked like an exit wound of like if like a bullet went through a piece of
Yeah.
paper or something and it like
Paper. Yeah,
peeled
yeah, yeah.
back.
Okay, yeah. I think that definitely a slower schedule will help. Gosh, maybe even a slow schedule instead of a medium
Right.
schedule. Are you doing Josh's BIS schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was one of the first introductions of the slow biscuit schedule that he was doing, and that
Okay.
was probably like a year and a half ago because I went through, is it because I'm putting too many layers on of the underglaze? Is it that this bisque schedule is not slow enough? It's not doing
Yeah.
enough during the bisque cycle. Am I not bisquing hot enough? I think I might have been bisquing at 08 at that time or 06, and then it was like, do I need to go to 04? Was 04 going to affect the underglaze
Right.
result? And then it was, okay, we got those variables out. Now it gets out of the bisque kiln. What do we do from here? Do we sand and sponge the pots because they have underglaze on them? I would say one characteristic of speedball is they do tend to be a little chalkier.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Amicos might be a little bit more silky smooth, I think. I don't know what do their pots look like, Sarah and Merritt's pots when they come out? Like, are they fairly smooth? I feel like the black that I've used in Amico has been some pretty smooth.
Yeah, the velvet underglazes, I think they're smooth if applied correctly. Um, but also, I haven't done a test from. Oh no, I have actually. I used some Amico on one of my pieces on one of the fancy cups, like the smaller ones, and I was not a fan. But that's because the Mako, like some of the Mako glazes, when you paint them on, they're fucking golden smooth. Like they're so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they fire, they're like even more. But there are some colors of the Amicos that do that exact same thing, like the orange and the chartreuse. Oh my God. The chartreuse Amico color, best underglaze color of all time, in my opinion. Anyway,
is it like your
but
glasses color?
no, these are yellow. It's just like a light green. It's like it's kind of like this, but like duller.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I feel like probably in my opinion, which is obviously biased, as we know, in my opinion, it goes speedball, chalky, Amico, and then Mako. But there's some colors of Mako that are more chalky than some colors of Amico, so they're kind of like back and
It
forth
depends
in
on
my
which one you get.
yeah, and and like and obviously like when you use somebody else's underglazes, I keep mine super clean. Like
You
know
mean like
me.
in the bottle and
Yeah, like I keep them
like
super
letting it get
clean.
caked up on the rim so it's not
Yeah,
actually a
there's not
tight seal?
right, there's no crusties, I'm like super on top of that shit, and when you're using other people's and it's like really crusty, that has an effect too cuz they're not like perfectly smooth. So,
Right.
Amico right out of the bottle versus Mako right out of the bottle might be very similar. Now, that's on bisque though. On
Greenware?
um on greenware, when I was doing the screen printing medallions,
Yeah.
so what I noticed is I used Mako, no, I used Amico at one point, and I used Speedball, and then I started using just underglaze. The Speedball,
Just underglaze, you mean slip?
just slip, sorry, slip. The Speedball underglaze dries a lot faster than the Amico underglaze on wet clay.
On
Um,
greenware, which is good
on
for me
greenware.
doing it at
Yeah,
greenware
it
and
was
painting on
great for
layers
me
and getting
too.
a solid wall of color.
Yeah, so I definitely prefer Speedball if I'm going to screen print anything.
Which makes sense because
Um,
they're a screen, like they specialize in
which
screen
makes
printing
sense
and
because they
products. So.
exactly. Yeah. And then, but I have a question. Could you mix, like, let's say that you were having an issue with your yellow, okay? Your yellow underglaze. Could you mix that in with a little bit of clay? Like, if you were going to be putting it on greenware anyway, like, could you mix it with a little bit of clay and would that resolve the issues?
I don't know. I don't know if would the clay actually like spread into the underglaze and like
Like the
absorb
slip?
and yeah.
I don't know.
Like because with slip you would just add water and then you would submerge the dry clay into it. How would you get a wet clay mixed with, or would you just make a slip and then mix slip with
Yeah, with
liquid
the
underglaze? I mean that would change the color of it, right?
well, what if you like just had a tiny bit, like I wonder if you could just put a tiny bit into the underglaze, like just like a small ratio, and you just put a yellow stain in it or whatever, you know, and just mixed it in. I wonder if that would fix your issues of firing
The
because
fit issue.
like if it would bind better, you know.
I don't know. Oh, so
That's a question.
I never finished the rest of the issue troubleshooting parts, but
Oh, sorry.
the next step was getting out of the bisque, and then I was like, okay, sponging it off, right? Okay, so sponge it, clean it, sand it, whatever, lightly sand it, get all the chalky stuff off.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if you dip it in a glaze and it's chalky, there could be areas that don't fully adhere to the pot.
Right.
And obviously if you sponge them, like wait a day so it like completely dries and stuff, so you're not glazing it
Did
right
you
after.
submerge it all the way in water?
Yeah, I did some dunking in water. I did some
Okay.
running it under running water and sponge it. I did it
Okay.
like with just a light sponge with water on it and just wipe it. I feel like even running it underwater and sponging it is fine. They
Yeah.
still dry out after a period of time. And then I went the whole glaze route. Like, am I glazing it too thick? Is the glaze having issues because there's a whole thing about like, is there zinc in your glaze, and is it zinc free? And I even used the Speedball glaze. They gave me some of their clear glaze and tried it with that, and did some back and forth tests and see like how is it the thickness of the glaze, the thinness, the firing schedule. So I think the end result that I came up with was definitely sponge them after they're bisque fired.
Okay.
I still do the slow bisque schedule. So slow bisque schedule, sponge them after bisque firing, let them dry.
And submerge them in water. Submerge.
Yeah, submerge, wipe them really well with the sponge. You can even do a light sanding if you want, but just, something good to get all the dusty parts
You know,
off.
be a good thing to scrub them with is a scrub daddy.
Yeah. I was just using like a 200 sanding, like
Yeah.
sandpaper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I think the issue was the specific gravity of my clear. I think my clear was at like 160 specific gravity, so it was a little thicker. And
yeah, you need it to be thin.
I need it to be more like 145.
Yeah, clear needs to be thin as fuck.
So I think that was my issue. I started having better results with that. And I'm having better results that way. So it took me a lot of trial and error and a lot of troubleshooting to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, there still are some colors that cause issues.
Yeah.
That, especially when I carve through them, some of them have issues where you just look at the sliver that comes off and like the underglaze is just not as stuck to the pot. But that could be when it's applied to the pot. But
interesting.
And do you ever have underglazes that when you put them on, it's like when you put it right on the pot, it might adhere really well because it's soaking into clay versus like on top of other underglaze when you're like painting layers, that it's like, does it adhere well to the other layer differently than adhering to clay?
Since I don't work on greenware, I'm gonna pass on this question because that's not applicable to me.
Okay. I mean, it definitely depends on when I apply the slip. Like you want to do, generally I want to do it at like a hard, leather hard. Because I'm using the diamond core, they're pretty sharp, so I'm not worried about like doing it at. Plus, it just dries quicker if you do it like a hard leather hard. It soaks in, takes the moisture in. The first layer goes on super quick because it's soaking it in like a sponge, and then the subsequent layers take a little longer, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how is your underglaze application different on bisqueware? Because I have no experience with bisqueware application.
I'm sure mine is completely different than everybody's. I mean, I'm sure everybody does something completely different. That's the thing about like, as we're talking about underglazes and slips and stuff, is that everybody does their own fucking thing, like everybody has to figure out what works for them. I use my underglazes pretty much exactly like paint. So that's how I use them. But here's the thing.
How do you mean by that? You're not painting it right out of the bottle. You're making your own palette. Is that what you mean by using it like paint?
No, I paint them right out of the bottle. I don't have time to mix.
Okay.
But I don't want to.
Unless you're doing a gradient or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they have fine color. So but the difference is, so when you paint with underglazes, you have to remember that it's soaking it up so quickly on the first pass that you have to be aware of that. So like if I'm going to do a gradient, I'm not going to do the first, like normally when you would do a gradient with regular paint, you'd start with the lightest color and then you move to the second lightest and then you'd move to the darkest, and you kind of like move your way up. Well, so if I'm like painting a triangle, or whatever. You wouldn't fill in that whole space immediately. But with underglazes, because it's not like paint and because you are painting it on bisqueware that's soaking up that color so quickly. So this would be different than greenware versus bisqueware. Greenware, you could get away with like kind of moving your way up because it's not soaking it in really quickly. You have a little bit more time to move, but since it's bisque, you have to if I'm going to go yellow to red in a gradient, I'm going to paint the entire triangle yellow.
Okay.
First.
I don't know enough about painting to know how you would do that in paint normally.
You would not do that because with paint, it wouldn't dry. So I'm going to paint that entire triangle yellow first, and then I'm going to move up my gradient, because if I don't paint that entire triangle yellow, then I'm going to see a hard line where I stopped painting the first time.
You're giving it a wet surface?
I'm giving it...
Or a more
no.
wet, more conducive
I'm actually
to
giving
moisture?
it a less... Yeah, I'm giving it a less absorbent surface. So when I paint it with yellow first, it's got a blocker on it. A little bit of a blocker so that when I paint it the second time, it's not going to dry as quickly.
Okay.
So
there is more moisture as you apply color. There's more.
Right.
There's a barrier, and it takes longer for that to dry, so you can actually get a clean transition. Okay.
Right, but I'm still going to be painting it like it's a much faster process than if you were using acrylic paints. Like I use 4 different brushes, and like some of them I hold in my mouth, and I'm like doing it super quick because it's gonna dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have? Is there a way to do, like, I don't know what the technique, but is there a technique of like a fan brush that you would have multiple gradient? You would create a gradient and you would like get the gradient from the palette on the brush and you would apply it that way?
So you could do that. I think you're
But you have a wider gradient, right? So you can't really get all that on a brush.
Well, yeah, and also it's not going to look as good, and it's not going to be as pointed where you want it to be. But what I was thinking of that actually might be fun experiment is doing you know how Speedball has the Speedball like rubber rollers for printmaking?
Mm-hmm.
Like
oh man, what do you call those?
I can't remember.
Gosh, it's something with an L, I think.
Litho?
No, that's like a litho print.
Lithograph or whatever. But anyway, they have those rubber rollers, and you can roll them in the ink, and then you can roll them to make like a gradient, and it looks really cool.
Brayer?
Maybe.
Brayer.
Yeah. A brayer. Yeah. And so you can roll it to make a gradient. That might be really interesting to like roll it and then roll it onto a pot somehow.
Yeah, just like you would do for like printmaking.
Right, because that doesn't absorb any ink, and the underglaze isn't going to dry super fast, but it will dry. But
I mean, honestly, that's kind of how. Have you ever seen Jason Burnett make screen prints for like Isla Transfers? Or I went to a workshop with him, and he does this. It's in his it's probably in his book. I can't remember the name of the book. We'll Google it, but he was doing a gradient of color, and it was with underglaze, and you basically put it out on a
glass.
Not on the glass, but on the actual like thing that you're going to push it through, the screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he was kind of doing the different colors, and then you kind of like mesh them together, and you make the gradient, and then you use the rubber thing to pull it through. And then as you do it, you can kind of like build up the gradient better and better.
Yeah.
As you do it. And it's not like a hard line. You kind of like layer it in a certain way that it looks gradual all the way across.
Yeah.
So he's doing it for the transfers that are like screen print transfers, underglaze transfers.
That's another thing. I don't think you can do transfers with slip, can you?
Like slip onto newsprint?
Yeah, can you?
I mean, you can. Yeah. I mean, think of like Catie Miller. Do you know Catie Miller's work?
Yeah. Is that slip?
That's slip. Yeah, that's colored slip. It's just, it's very time sensitive, right? I mean, you can let it dry out, but you have to be aware of how much moisture you have there.
Yeah.
I actually really like that technique where you're kind of painting the
Backwards.
foreground first.
Yeah.
And then you're painting layers on top of that of slip.
Yeah, it looks cool.
And then you put it on and you peel it off. I kind of like that like aged look sort of.
I do too.
Like where those pieces are missing, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
That imperfect look is really cool. Cardboard Tim does that too. He screen prints onto phone books
Yeah.
and then keeps them. Like he'll do like 30 at a time and then he like
Right.
puts them on. And he has like it takes a long time. He like burnishes it on and it's a process. I remember when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do the medallions for my mugs, and I watched him do it live, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
I thought it would take less time, and I'm like, nope, that's gonna take way more time. I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah. I mean, seeing like Jason Burnett's work where he like in person at his workshops and stuff, like just the process that goes into the underglaze prints
So much.
that you apply. I mean, that's what Amy Brummond does a little bit with her grids, but I mean, that's just the base coat of what she's doing, and then she adds to it. But just that process of putting it on at the right stage, burnishing it really well, getting the moisture level right to peel it off.
I think Amy uses not Sandbo, but she uses an underglaze
She uses
transfer.
Isla Transfer.
Isla, yeah.
Which is Jason Burnett's company, or he's one of the owners of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. What I think when I thought when I started was like there's got to be ways to like speed up everything. And there has to be shortcuts. And you know what? In pottery there just really isn't.
I mean, some of it's like
takes long time.
You can find little shortcuts here and there of improving it.
Yeah.
Like I've always wondered if there's a liquid slip way that I could have colored slip, and if I were to dip my pots in slip, would they be pigmented enough to where I could keep, like, I kind of like the fingerprint part, right? So it's like you mix the fingerprint part where it's like handmade, but it's also kind of rugged because it's dipped, so it's not going to come out perfect every time.
Yeah.
If I were to mix that kind of rugged look with the carved, like structured, tight lines look, how that would result, and like what level would the slip have to be at to be dippable?
Really thin, and you could put sodium silicate in it to really thin it out, or whatever that's called, water it out or whatever.
Flocculate it.
That's the word.
Getting all sciencey. I don't even know what that means exactly, but I know flocculate, deflocculate. I think flocculate is thin and deflocculate is thicken.
I don't know. I don't fucking know. What was I gonna say? When I was doing the earrings, I made a ton of colored slip, and normal. I just used the old shitty slip from the back. It smelled so bad, and
when you mean from the back, you mean you like scooped it out of the trough?
Yeah,
and like mixed it with a blender or something, so it's the right consistency.
Yeah.
Slip casters are like, oh my god.
Yeah, well, you know what? You should have seen us trying to do a slip casting for the first time. That was a fucking disaster. Me and Andrew, there was plaster everywhere. Oh my god, it was fucking terrible. So hard. I have so much respect for slip casters.
And the precision with those molds and stuff. Like,
like no. I love it when people are like, slip casting isn't pottery. I'm like, you're fucking right. It's not. It's so much harder.
Man, I was going down the route because I'm kind of like collaborating with somebody that does slip casting, and these tumblers, like I want to make, I'm like, is slip casting a better option? Like if I could go the slip casting route, what am I getting myself into? But could I just make like a simple tumbler that would be cool for like tiki glasses or just a basic tumbler
Right?
that I carve. And I'm like, it's so much easier, right? You pour in the color, you pour it out, you pour in the clay color, you pour it out. Like, but it's like, oh man, what do I got to get to that point? And then
I,
like
yeah,
how
I
much
don't
time
think
does
it's
that take?
easier.
It's like,
I
is
don't
it
think it's easier.
simpler?
I don't think it's faster. I don't think it's better. I mean, no, I do think it's better. I mean, like I
I think
don't.
it'd
I
be
do, but I
cleaner.
don't.
So it's like, I mean,
It's
it would be
cleaner. Like,
perfect. It would be nice to just get, somebody else could do it. It would lose a little bit of my hands, but I would get my hands in the carving part. But it's like,
yeah. I mean, but what I will say is like Heidi changed to slip casting. She used to throw primarily, Heidi Fahrenbacher used to
mhm.
throw primarily, and she likes it so much better. And her her
It's
shapes are
probably
just like fucking
the precision of it probably outweighs
yeah, but it's
and the
so funny. She
decals
was
and the
showing
illustrations is a big part of her slip cast work
yeah,
too,
it's
right?
huge. It's huge. And like and she just realized that just for wholesale, just having the same mug body was nice. And also it's so much less um stressful on your hands.
Oh, I
Like,
bet.
like I'll probably have to fucking switch to slip. I was actually thinking about
Like
that, like
just the
switching.
contouring of your hands and fingers and stuff to throw those pieces, whereas you really just have to have
Yeah.
the strength to pour heavy things, pour
Yeah.
them out, and then have the dexterity to like clean lines up, right?
Right. And so it's still unless it's a one, if it's a one piece mold, you don't really have to clean as many lines up, but yeah, I mean obviously everything that you do is still going to affect a muscle because you're doing it over and over and over and over again. It's going to affect some muscle
Right.
consistently. So obviously there's still issues with
Like there's
that,
probably
but
back issues and stuff with
yeah.
pouring heavy
Oh
molds
my god,
out.
yeah. But yeah, she likes it so much better. And I'm like, I don't even know how to make a fucking mold. I am so bad. Like, I tried to make molds for those earrings and it took me for fucking ever. And like, just making like
Oh,
the,
because you were gonna
just,
pour a cylinder, right?
yeah. And I did end up pouring, like, I did end up making molds. So I poured a cylinder and then poured them out so I could make earrings and like cut the earrings off. And it was just
Because they're
a lot.
circular earrings. They're just basically
Yeah.
discs,
They're just
like rings.
rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a lot, but it was just easier to throw him.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
like
it's
it
like a
just
tool, right? If you know the tools and the skill sets of like mixing plaster, I'm like, I only mix
right.
plaster when I need to make a reclaim bat
And when we do that, we
to,
do it wrong
and I'm like,
sometimes.
I've recorded a video of making a reclaim bat like 3 times because I fuck up the proportions and
Every single
you know,
time. Yeah.
and I feel like I'm pretty like specific with my measurements and stuff. Like I'm that brain, like I'm good in that space, but it's like I haven't done this enough to, you know,
Yeah. I didn't learn when I learned plaster, I never learned how to measure plaster. I just learned to
feel it.
sprinkle it in until the mountain grows and it doesn't sink.
Yeah. And then the slip casting, there's way more specificity to it because of the amount of water it needs to suck out at what rate, and
Yeah.
then how long the mold's gonna last and all that kind of stuff that factors in. It's not just does it absorb water to get your reclaim to a part
Yeah,
that you
I
can.
feel like I'm not like a forward-thinking person enough to be a slipcaster. Like, you have to make like a mother mold and then you have to like, do all these things. And I'm like, can we just make the fucking mold and like just do it? And then when it wears out, I'll just retire that
I'll just
shape.
I'll just be done. It's
I'll
like,
just be
oh,
done with
but you
that
can
shape.
only use that mold 100 times, and it's like,
Right.
well,
Well, 100
what?
cups it is.
I thought the whole point was the production, so you can get a lot. And you're like, oh, well, that one mold is only going to last me for 15, 30 minutes, and then I can't use it again for a day? What? So how many molds do I need to have?
Exactly.
How
Like
much
that's the
slip do
other
I need
thing.
to have? Like,
That's That's the other thing about slipcasting that nobody ever thinks about is the fucking space. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I don't know if anybody has ever done a bargain where you have to like you buy a kiln, but the molds come with you. Like, fuck that. All of that. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it.
how many
Like,
people are trying to get rid of mold? I got like 100 molds I'm trying to get rid of. Does anybody? No. No, thanks.
nope. I mean, like, they take up so much space. Anyway, this is just our appreciation post of slipcasters.
Oh my gosh. That's why you can really appreciate like looking at Curt's slipcasting process or other
Ugh.
slipcasting process where you're like, oh my gosh. And then you can just go super basic with the slipcasting. Like Sean and Valeri, their slipcasting is very simple, but
Yeah, it
the
is.
designs that you can come up with through the application of the slip process can
Yeah.
get so detailed. Oh my gosh, it's just nuts.
It's just nuts. And I think, well, Curt is breaking rules. like in a good way, but like, typically the rules of I wouldn't say rules, but like the suggestions that I've gotten all the time when I was like becoming a potter was simple form, complex glaze. Complex form, simple glaze. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Curt breaks all of that. He's like, I'm going to do a complex form with fucking texture, and then I'm going to do this badass glaze on top.
And then he's also like, coming back around to the simple form, and then people are like, that's just a basic cup. Why does it take all that sophistication and technology to get to that basic
Yeah.
simple cup? But it's like the glazes are what shine here. The glazes,
Yeah.
some people buy it for the glaze, some people buy it for the form,
Buy
some
it for
people
the
buy it for
shape and the
both.
form.
Like my
Yeah.
pieces of his that I like the best are the ones that are black underglaze and they've got that simple micro crystalline white on top and it just
Yeah.
breaks over the texture and I'm like those are my favorite. I don't like the
Yeah.
dripping glazes as much as
Right.
the
And
simple with the texture.
yeah, and like so he's like breaking all of the rules of form and glazing, which is good, and he's achieving that, which is amazing, and yay for you. Uh, yeah, but it's just like, where do you? I don't even know why I said that, but I think I said that because I was gonna commend you on that, Curt, because it's really great. He's not gonna listen anyway, but it's fine.
I'll tell him you said that tomorrow when I chat with him.
Yeah, yeah, tell him. Um, but yeah, it's fucking crazy. Like, I also think too, along the lines of like how hard slip casting is to us. Um, I think that you know, it's a lot more simple to be a slip caster if you're only a slip caster. It is more difficult to be a potter and a slip caster, but it's easier to be just a potter, just a slip caster. I would say being both is hard.
I feel like the timing of balancing it all is just
Yeah, that would be
so
tough.
tough. Without,
And
I mean,
but
especially
the
if it's just you. Like if you have staff,
yeah,
like maybe you can offload. I mean, that's kind of some of the idea that hopefully you can have other people that can do some of that for you.
yeah.
That if you
But
can make
also
it
the
teachable.
space. Like so much stuff you have to have.
Yeah,
They don't overlap very well. Like they overlap in glazing. That's
yeah.
it.
But like all the equipment you need to have an efficient slip, you know.
Yeah. It's a lot. Like
Yeah, and I'm like,
it's a lot.
you know what? It's probably not any less time to just throw the piece,
It's not.
rip it off, cut it, let it dry overnight, and then trim it if you need to trim it or thumb it off and then let it sit in a damp box. And it's exactly like you want. It's the exact thickness you want. And then put the underglaze on top of it or put the slip on top of it.
I would actually love this. I would love to not challenge, but see from like Curt's perspective or somebody who has a slip casting studio that's like production. I would love to see the comparison of like me throwing like
If you had his simple basic mug form, like throwing that.
no, or well just me throwing what I throw. Like not like doing the same exact item, but like say we're going to make mugs, just mugs, and he makes as many as he can in a day and I make as many as I can in a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we see how that progress goes, like, you know,
Is it
it would,
is it different because there's a certain number of factors that he can affect before he comes in that day? Like he can have X number of molds made.
no, I think that that's not different.
Okay.
No.
It's just based
So
on his
like
time and what he can physically handle by himself.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see, or even with a team, it'd be interesting to see the turnaround time of a like 100 mugs thrown to 100 mugs poured. It would be really interesting to see that turnaround, because we could turn around 100 mugs in a week. Easy.
You mean start to finish?
Start to finish.
You've done it.
We've done it.
A lot.
A lot. I mean, I've done it a lot, but like even the whole team at Gravesco could do it, Like,
I think it depends on what the look you're going for too. Like,
no, I mean, but it's
you're
still
just
the
talking
same
about
thing.
the end product, yeah.
Yeah, like if he was just dipping glazes, like single glazes, like if he had a single glaze or whatever, just like a simple white or whatever. But like, because he's spraying glazes, we don't spray.
Well, he's spraying underglazes. I don't think he sprays
Yeah.
actual glazes that much that I know of.
Yeah, but like, it would be interesting to see the time difference and what that entails. It would actually, I would really love to see a production potter, a production hand builder, and a production slipcaster do everything for like, see how long time it for 100 mugs.
Wow.
Or 100 cups.
I've never heard the
It'd be
term
interesting.
production hand builder, but that just sounds agonizing on my hands, but I'm sure that's a
There are
thing.
production hand builders. I guarantee it.
100 mugs for a production hand builder. Oh man.
Rebecca used to work for somebody who did primarily hand building.
Well, I'm sure there's totally systems for
50 cents a
production hand
handle.
building that they probably have molds and stuff if they're production mug
You
making.
have forms that you go around.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. And it's not like tight, they're not tight forms.
Yeah.
Like you're just rolling up the
Whereas
bottoms.
the slip cast is inherently tight because that's part of it. But
Right.
they also have the time that you're saving on is you don't have to clean seams.
Exactly. You do have to trim, but trimming takes 30 seconds. There's no way you can or 30 seconds to a minute. I could trim a mug body in about 30 seconds, but then putting the handle on would take maybe 30 seconds more.
Yeah. 30
maybe
30 seconds to put a handle on?
Maybe a minute. They're extruded.
Right, okay. What about the time to extrude them,
you have to count
though?
you have to count the time to extrude them, which Bradley does. Bless.
Yeah.
But still, even extruding the handles, I still think it would be faster.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the handle attachment part, that's got to take some time. The seaming, the handle attachment, and the cleanup of that. And then once that's done, it's on the shelf and it's done. But, what is that amount of time versus the time it takes for you to trim, attach a handle, and that's it, right?
Right. Okay, so here's our other question. This has just gone off the fucking rails.
Hey, there's a slip thread throughout here.
Okay, sure.
We talked a lot about underglaze on the upper half.
Okay, so I think that so yes. Okay, we've decided that probably slip casting takes longer than throwing. Especially because you have to wait a certain amount of time when you pour everything in. For it to dry and stuff. Okay, so we've decided that is potentially longer. However,
I don't know.
I think it might be longer. Okay, but I'm deciding that it's longer.
Maybe.
Okay. As opposed to a production facility doing thrown pottery. Okay. Now my question is, or not my question, but my observation is, I think that it would be a longer learning process to do pottery well than it would be to do slip casting well.
I like that.
So I think that
you're saying the amount of things you need to know for slip casting and the skill set to do slip casting well, is it just a little bit more?
It's a little bit more user friendly
versus taking intuition a little bit and like a little bit of experience. Like you need more hours behind production throwing.
I think you do. I think you need more hours behind the wheel than you do behind a mold to learn it to the capacity of being professional.
Are you also behind the mold? Okay. What about this? I mean, there's like slip parts too, like understanding, are you just getting slip
No,
that's
I
ready?
agree. Like obviously, like getting your clay to the right consistency, getting your slip to the right consistency. Yes, but I think, but like specifically, like being at the wheel and learning how to throw, it's taken me what 10 years to get to this level. I think that Curt is at.
Who is the shortest tenured person in clay that production throws at Gravesco? Not like years in clay kind of thing, would you say? Is there somebody like 5 years or under?
No, because
Like having been throwing for 5 years or having been.
probably Merritt is the shortest time throwing, but she's been throwing since high school. But like there's production potters at Sunshine Hill Pottery, Sunset Hill Pottery, that they teach them from the ground up. So yeah, I mean, like if you're doing production, it takes a lot faster to learn for sure. If you're doing production every day, and learning production takes a lot faster. So if you're learning production throwing versus learning production slip casting, I still think that it would be faster to learn production slip casting than it would be to learn production throwing. That's not saying that it's harder to do slip casting or throwing. It's
We're just
just that
talking
it's a
about time to like,
time
I want to say
invested,
like expert or like time to proficiency or something like that.
time to intermediate. Yeah. I just think that, and then I think that you peak in slip casting. Okay.
No, this is going to be a controversial statement. I can already tell.
No, I don't think it's going to be controversial because, like, so here's what I think. I think that it's a little bit easier to learn the basics of slip casting. And then once you get to the top, once you get to like where you're like at peak status, where you're like, I'm, you know, making really good molds. Once you get there, that's when like finessing is really important. And it's like really like what Curt's doing, he's finessing his skill, right? To the best it can be, right?
But how do you know what goes into that trajectory?
I don't. And so this is what I'm assuming. So I'm assuming that like learning the process at the beginning is like, okay, I've learned the process. And then once you get to the like then okay, so you're like fast to learn and then you're like leveling off at like getting really fucking good, right? At slip casting. Now, I think that pottery, like throwing, is different. You have to get really fucking good at the basics and then it moves up fast. Like you have to
Because you're
spend a
just
lot of
repeating the basics.
right, you have to spend a lot of time at the base level and then you got to move up fast to where you're like figuring out your style and all that shit.
Mhm.
So that I think it's opposite in that regard. That's my assumption.
I
That
think
could be
the
very wrong.
I think the real finesse and the real sophistication of the slip casting is the mold making.
Agreed.
I think
Yeah.
the expert
Like
level comes in of like how you make a mold that's to this
yeah.
quality and like
But I think that comes over time. Like,
how they
you're
fit
not going to make
together.
like you're not going to make like your first mold's going to be really shitty, obviously. I mean, everything is shitty. And like it doesn't matter what you're doing for the first time, but I do think that like the concept of learning it's a lot easier to understand right off the bat and then you have to make it good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's different where the concept of learning the basics of throwing can take a long
Because
time.
I'm sure there's decision points where you're saying I'm limited to my knowledge of how to make a mold of this thing because that
Yeah.
defies the physics of molds and how molds work. But once you understand mold making enough, you can probably say, you know what, I'm badass enough in this part of it that I
Right.
can make something and be like, that came out of a mold?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Have you seen do you follow Vantiki?
I
He
think
makes
so.
tiki mugs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're all, he sculpts them, and then he makes these super sophisticated molds out of them, and he only makes like 200 of each piece, and then he breaks the molds and
So
never
he's like
again.
what I would do. He's like, I don't want to make another
And
fucking
these
mother mold.
pieces are like, they're nice.
Okay, I'm looking him up right now. Oh shit.
Vantiki. He makes production like release mugs for very high end tiki bars.
Oh yeah. I've seen the banana one. Okay.
Yeah, pretty nuts, right? Like, it's like that is slipcast, but how else would you get it? And they're
Yeah,
like
he's doing
super
like a crab
artistic.
claw.
Yeah, just the artistic part that comes into the just building the form in 3 dimensions and then making a mold of that form is nuts. And then, Curt's side of it is he's 3D printing the thing. So instead of being a really good sculptor, he's a really good like technology 3D modeling skill set.
And he
And then
knows how
there's
to
some
use
people
his
that are just like they're
resources.
really great at illustrations and drawing and stuff where, they can, like Catie Miller can do these drawings and slip that are organic and they're painterly, or they're, they have these certain motifs and they can have that work with their pots. It's just crazy how many different ways you can do this. And just like slip is just one part of it, or underglaze is
It's
just a way to get there.
crazy. Yeah, it's just fucking crazy. I'm watching him make a crab claw, and I do follow him. And I have noticed all the things.
Making the crab claw like he's sculpting it.
With Sculpey, yeah.
Yeah, nuts, right?
Insane. Oh, little banana. Ooh, banana. Can I just say really quickly that I really enjoyed Donkey Kong N64.
I never had an N64 as a kid. I had PlayStation 1. And I went over to my friend's house and we would play N64 and I was so jazzed about it, playing like Pokemon Stadium. I didn't really play Donkey Kong that much. Maybe Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah, oh, Donkey Kong Country was my jam. The
But
Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country.
I had
1
Donkey Kong
and
on the Game
3,
Boy
not
Color
2.
or the old Game Boy.
Did you have 2, 1, or 3? 1, 2, or 3?
Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
On Game Boy, Donkey Kong 1.
Country.
No, it was just Donkey Kong. It's just called Donkey Kong.
Oh, that Donkey Kong.
On Game Boy, where you just had to run up the ladders and go up the thing to.
Oh wow, that's pretty retro right there.
Yeah, it was not a 2D thing. You were just going within the screen.
I mean, I had Donkey Kong 2 on Game Boy. Like Donkey Kong Country 2.
But was that like a 2-dimensional where you were going through a map and it was panning as you got to the... No, that was not Donkey Kong 1.
Yeah, it was on Donkey Kong Color. Game Boy Color.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, God, I fucking miss Game Boy.
We had Game Boy. We had Game Boy Color. We had a Game Gear. Do you know what Game Gear is?
No.
It was like a Sega. It was a Sega Game Gear. It was like the size of... God, it was fucking huge. It was like It was like the size of this case, honestly. Like this case here. That's how big the fucking thing was.
Oh my God, like 9x6.
It was like old school PSP, like the PlayStation Portable.
Yes.
It was like the PSP, but it was like way bigger. Played like NFL 95 on it, or God, terrible games. Big Hurt Baseball.
My neighbors had a Sega, so we'd always play Sonic.
Sega.
And then we had a Super Nintendo.
Is that the NES, Sega NES with the gray console with the purple slide things? That's Sega, right?
Oh no, Purple Slide was, well, they were both purple and gray, honestly. Sega was more square and it came down. The purple came down, and then the Nintendo had the slides. So the Super Nintendo had the slides, and then
okay.
you pop the thingy in on the
Yeah.
top. The Sega, I can't remember the colors of the Sega, but
Sega
you
was
lifted
black, though.
Yeah, it must have been
I
it.
think it
You
was
lift
black,
the cartridge up, and then you put the game in, and then you close the cartridge. So, yeah.
And throwback. Yeah, the first console we had was the PlayStation 1. And then we got PlayStation 2. And I still have a PlayStation 2, actually.
We never played PlayStation. We were always
Xbox came out.
Xbox. Yeah, I never played Xbox either.
Never had the original Xbox. I had the Xbox 360, and that was the last game console I've ever played.
I would sometimes play Halo with my brother, but
play a little bit of Halo on Xbox 360, but
humiliating moment of my not really the most, but one of the humiliating moments of my high school life was that I would always hang out with these guys. All my friends were guys, and I went over to one of their, like, I would take this kid into school, and he became my friend, and we went over to this house for like a Game Boy, or no, like a Halo party, and I was playing, and I was so fucking bad. I was so so bad. And they were like, everybody, because they were playing with people like out of the state,
so it was
like over
it was
the
like
internet.
the first iteration of multiplayer.
Yeah, over the internet. And they were like, who's number 5? They're fucking terrible. They didn't say fucking terrible. They're so bad. And then my friends was like, she's a girl. Give her some slack.
Oh my God. She's a girl gamer.
And they were like, oh. And then I just stopped playing. I was like, I'll just eat snacks.
Oh, man. Because you're like, I feel bad. I'm taking up a controller from somebody that would be really good at this.
And it's so infuriating, right? Like, if
especially
you're
when
playing
people
with
are
a bunch of
watching
people.
You, there's spectators in the room watching you play, and they're like,
God.
when is it my turn? You fucking suck.
Or they're really good, and they're like, why do you suck?
Like, what? You don't just understand this? You can't just kill at this game, like, immediately?
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't just come home from school and spend 6 hours playing this game.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think we played video games very often when I was growing up. Like, I mean, we played it on holidays.
We played quite a bit, but you go over your friend's house that has this certain game and they're really good, and I'm like lagging at it because I'm like, I don't play it all the time. So it's like, oh, it's a treat to go over there and play it because it's like a new game for me, but they just like live in it all the time. So they're just kind of dulled to it.
I can't play like shooter games. They're too fast for me. My like ADHD brain just can't do it.
Oh, I can see that. Like a Call of Duty
people
or
are like moving around, and I just like, I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
Can you even watch people play it?
I can watch. Yeah, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. See how we started this show with movies and we're ending it with video games? You know how also that this was supposed to be a fucking fast episode?
This was supposed to be a 45-minute episode. We're at an hour and 49. What the fuck happened, Becca? What the hell happened? We were talking about movies for like fucking 45 minutes.
And we really didn't like actually talk about slips and underglazes. We like brushed the surface.
I think I should. Okay, to book it, I think I do want to go the dipping slip route. Like, I want to see if that's actually possible.
I want to help you.
I want to do that. I need to figure out the right viscosity. I need the slip to make it dippable. I'm sure there's some math and science about how to do that. And then adding the right amount of colorant, which I think is probably doable. I just need to figure out the right amount of dry material to get a decent liquid amount so that I can dip it into the bucket. So it's probably going to be like, kind of like mixing a glaze. It's probably going to be like 3,000 grams or 5,000 grams to get a decent amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to try that. And dipping it in black.
It's too bad you're not doing the inside, because then you could just do a glaze fountain or something.
But I would be dipping it at greenware.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, yeah, maybe it'll be a different line of like kind of sloppy, or not sloppy, but like
Quick.
I think somebody does some slips like that. And I'm thinking of who it is. I feel like a Justin Rossing, but I don't know that he does that.
I don't know.
There's some
You're
people that
past
do
my...
that where they they dip it and slip. Yeah. That's the dipping in and slip is definitely like a atmospheric firing thing where you do like flashing slip.
Mm-hmm.
You dip it in there real quick to get like that layer on there.
It would always scare the shit out of me to like do a once fire so that you have to dip it in glaze when it's green. That's no.
Actually, that technique counteracts the thing we talked about, a slip. Like you do use flashing slips in wood firing that you do it on bisqueware. You put that slip on a bisqueware.
Well, I don't know anything about that.
And those are actually some of the cooler results. It's like super bare bones. You just dip it in flashing slip.
Oh,
which is mixed to
right.
kind of like a glaze.
Okay.
But it's not a glaze, it's a clay. It's a slip.
Interesting.
But I guess it doesn't shrink so much that it...
Right, it must not shrink at a crazy rate.
But they come out really cool. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a go. And that's not
Wait,
gonna
is this
be too bad.
Oh.
What?
Is this episode coming out next week?
Probably.
If you've lasted through this whole thing, we know that you're a true follower. But also I have an update happening on March 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I feel like
shameless plug. You got to put it in here. I mean,
put my shameless plug out.
I think it's going to be We're not shameless here.
Not really. I mean, it's our podcast.
I'm proud that you're planning this far ahead. I'm impressed.
I'm not, because you know why?
You planned it like 20 days ago, didn't you?
Yeah. And it was a mistake. I should have just updated when I update like I normally do. And like yesterday, I posted something on Instagram and I was like, oh, the update. And I go to the countdown and I pull it up and I was like, 7 days.
You're like, I already picked the countdown date. Oh, shit.
I was like, 7 days? I have 7 days to get the shit done? Like, there's like 30 cups. No, there's 40. There's like 40 cups that I have to get done
Fancy
this
cups?
week painting. Yes.
You got to finish painting them? So they're bisquared right now. And you've got...
They're bisque, and I haven't even sanded half of them. Like...
Oh, shit. So where are you at in the life cycle of a pot right now? Of one of your fancy cups?
Everything's bisqued.
So you're at like... Is that like 30% of the way through? Yeah. In the full life of your pot?
Probably.
Oh.
Like, I can sand the butts after I sell them if I need to, because you won't be able to tell if it's shiny or not. You know, I can sand those at the end, but I like to sand everything before, because then, you know.
They do photograph really well if they're sanded, like you can't.
Yeah, and what if you break it or something, you know? And but I think that most of these cups are going to be like the more artistic, sloppy, glazed styles, because that's a lot faster.
Oh, I got you. That's what we saw on your shelf that was, hey, we're trying these.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to put some simple ones in there so you got kind of a price range and you make it easier on yourself a little bit?
There's small ones that are $50 and then the big ones are $100. So I have 20 small ones and I think 20 big ones.
When you say big ones, you're talking about like a
normal
14 ounce
glasses.
or 12 ounce? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then small ones, you're talking like 8 ounce?
6 to 4. 4 to 6
ounce. Okay.
Yeah, I'm positive I'm not gonna sell out. Like, I never sell out.
Right.
But like, I'm not fucking Hammerly Ceramics. But yeah. So I did one with lines that was really cool. So I'll post a picture of that tomorrow because it's in the kiln and glazed. But yeah, so I gotta paint my little heart out this week.
I think you like that pressure though. I think you kind of thrive under it.
I do thrive under that, but it's stressful. I really ideally need to get everything done by Wednesday, fired Wednesday, and then on Thursday and Friday, I can sand everything down.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sanding that I hate the most. Like,
Oh, I bet.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
we'll talk on the next episode or one of the future ones because I want to talk about the this or that experiment I'm doing and see how that goes. So
Okay.
I'm releasing those in a couple
Oh
days,
yeah,
and
your
we're gonna
glaze.
see how that pre-order deal goes.
Yeah, that'll be
I'm
interesting.
a little worried, but I think it'll do okay. We'll see.
Expectations low. That's the best.
I'm trying to push myself to utilize my mailing list more, and I'm gonna see how it goes.
Okay, I believe in you.
All right.
And with that, we will say adios.
Yes. All right.
Goodbye.
Thanks everybody for watching, listening,
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
Thanks for bearing with us while we talk about movies and video games.
Very terribly.
Because it was the 90s. Sorry. We know each other much too well. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great. I was gonna make a Disney reference at the end there and say like we didn't butcher. I don't think we got on anybody's shit list about our Disney knowledge.
We didn't really talk about Disney. Well, I guess we did with the Lion King.
Oh gosh, that was great.
I actually really enjoyed that.
I liked the movie talk. I'm like, we're not gonna just stray away from this. They didn't get listener questions or they didn't get any survey results. That's what they got.
That's what they got.
And I love it.
I do too. I thought that was a lot of fun. I was like, if we had a regular podcast that wasn't about ceramics, we could just go on for 2 hours about movies and it'd be fucking fine.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we talked about Slip and Underglaze for about an hour, I think.
No, we didn't. It was like 35 minutes.
No, it wasn't.
What
134, I think.
Slip movies?
Slip movies?
Slipcast. I did love that. I did love the whole Slipcast conversation. I think it's really important for us to be the people that is like, Slipcast is fucking hard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think we need a Slipcaster to defend themselves and say, hey, this is why it's so hard. It's like, when they share their process, like, you can see why there's so much involvement there. Yeah. It's like, how can you not see? And most of the people that are saying it's not handmade is like, they probably have no idea. Yeah. They probably have never done it. They might not even be skilled in. Do you think production potters or like successful potters would ever say that slip casting is not handmade? Mm-mm. Or is it more just like the public that has?
I think it's public.
Very little knowledge of the process.
Because most we get into this, but most production potters are using ram presses.
Yeah.
Which is so much easier than both of those things. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Friend of mine actually started working at Rookwood, and she was showing me some of the process. She's making molds for their ram presses. Oh my gosh, the sophistication and all that stuff that goes into the gas line or the air lines or whatever.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, they had a little bit of the process on East Fork Pottery, and it's a lot. Those molds, if you have somebody else make them for you, is so much money. It could be like $10,000 for a mold.
Oh my gosh, I can believe it. I mean, there's people that are making molds for like people's teapot spouts and handles and stuff that are super finely made, and it's like $600 or $700 just to get a mold made. Yeah, but it's like great. The precision and the knowledge that goes into it. Like, imagine if you're just like, okay, I want to make a mold because I think this is gonna be quicker. Like me going through making a mold. Like if I went the route of the tumbler thing, like would it be cheaper and easier for me to hire somebody to make a mold for me and go down that route, or just pay people for greenware. Like, if you're a slipcaster, you know how to do this. Can you make a mold that I approve of, and you slipcast me greenware, and I pay you wholesale for greenware? Like, would that be better? That'd probably save me a lot of time and stuff. But like, how would that work versus me throwing them, having somebody apply the slip or underglaze? Whew. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot.
I forgot what I was going to look at. I don't know. All right. I need to wrap up in the studio real quick and then head upstairs. It's getting late. Okay. I probably need to upload this for you. Let me get that ready.
Oh my gosh. Apple TV has been charging me for like ever on something. I don't even know what it was charging me on. And
What do you
because
mean, on a certain card that you don't know about, or
like it was like on my iPad or something, like I signed up on my iPad and I could never figure out how to turn it off. And finally I canceled my credit card. So it's like, we can't
So wait, isn't it associated with your Apple ID though? Can't you just go to Apple ID and look at your subscriptions or something and say like, I own a subscription?
Be a different Apple ID because it's not the same one.
Oh, that sucks.
I've had so many issues with Apple ID.
And you have to have a credit card associated with an Apple ID or it won't let you. Damn.
No, it's okay. I needed that to happen actually.
So you can learn to cancel that. Well, you cancel the credit card anyway, so you're getting out of that game, right?
Yeah, I gotta get. Yeah, I canceled my Apple. Did I cancel my Apple card? I didn't cancel my Apple card. But it won't be very much. It's gonna be like $80 a month, maybe.
Okay, it looks like this is good. All right, it's uploading. All right, I'm going to stop that recording. However we do that, stop recording.